Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and now it's time for edition of Warhammer the Golden Age. This is our series of 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports. This is a 1,000 point battle that is fought between my House Van Koss of the Vampire accounts versus my buddy King Khalifa of the Schwarzwald Free Companies of the Empire. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm using my brand new Undead Army. If you guys have been following our series Hobby Side or Brush with Death, we've been doing a little bit of promotional videos talking about how I put that army together and started paint that army as well. I've painted up 1,000 points of it, and I decided to use it for my Warhammer the Golden Age battle reports because I want to see how these guys rock and roll when it comes to Warhammer. I'm taking on my buddy King Khalifa with his 1,000 point Empire army. So what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick, show you the army list that both sides are taking. If you want to see exactly what we're packing for this battle report, please feel free to pause your video and check out exactly what we have. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this battle report on the roll.
Assemble the army!
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the battle plan. This is the part of the battle report we talk about exactly what my plan is to fight it out. As you can see, we're fighting on a 4x4 table, and the reason why is because we're only fighting at 1,000 points. I am deployed on the far side of the table. My buddy King Khalifa, he is deployed on the near side of the table. And as you see, pretty much the plan is pretty straightforward. I'm planning on using that tower that's kind of like in the middle of the table to act as a focal point for my army. I'm pretty much planning on kind of going around that, kind of protecting my left-hand flank of my army. Sorry, not my left-hand flank, my right-hand flank of my army from being attacked by my buddy King Khalifa. I'm planning on kind of going between those buildings there on the left-hand side with the ruins in the bottom left-hand corner, as well as that tower to kind of protect my flanks at the same time, kind of take him on head-on, just kind of try to defeat him that way. I'm playing undead, so I have a pretty high strength, high toughness army. The only problem is that my guys, get wilted down pretty quickly. So because I need to try to protect my flanks so that I'm not completely surrounded and pounded that way. And that's pretty much the battle plan I'm going for this one. Alright, so let's talk about deploying real fast with the Vampire counts. Over here on my left-hand side, I got my 2 units of Monstrous Infantry. Taking the point, I got my Vargeist. Those guys are my Night Hunters. I got 3 of those guys taking point. Those guys are really good because they're really quick and fast. They also got Frenzy, so I'm planning on flanking my opponent using those guys. And then right behind them, of course, are my 3 Crypt Horrors, the Ravenous. And those guys are kind of there to protect the left-hand flank of my army. And that pretty much makes it my left-hand deployment. Meanwhile, making my center line is the bulk of my army. This is House Van Koss. There are 49 Crypt Ghouls, They're looking at that unit, so it's a nice little horde of 50 crypt ghouls. I got 10 wide and 5 deep. It's basically the meat and potatoes of my army. All those guys have wonderful toughness 4. They also have really good poisonous hacks. And then leading my army there on the left-hand side, I have the man himself, Marduk von Koss. That is my Strigoi Ghoul King. He's packing a majestic aura of Dark Majesty, so that way you get -1 to leadership that anybody has near him. Plus he has Scab Scraff that also gives him the Death Streak ability, which seems like a pretty powerful combination to put on this guy. And that pretty much makes it my center line for my army on this one. Meanwhile, deployed across from me, I have my buddy King Khalifa. This is deploying for his side of the army. Starting with the center lines, taking point, he's got 2 units of 5 archers. That is Rommel's Rangers. They're just kind of laid out right there in skirmish formation, protecting his main line. On the left-hand side, you got the Blue Company. That is his detachment of 20 halberdiers, attached to his other unit of 40 halberdiers, which is the Yellow Company, the Black Company. Those are the guys standing right over there next to them on the right-hand side. In that unit, he's got his battle standard bearer, Hans Jaeger, Hans Jaeger, the Griffin Guard, and he's also got his general in there as well, Gregor von Konismark, who's also his Archlector, and that pretty much makes up his center line on that part. And finally, make up his right-hand flank, he has the Panzer Baron, which is his Empire steam tank. Alright, so with deployment over, we go directly to the top at turn number 1 for the Empire. My buddy King Khalifa won the initiative on this one, so he gets to go first. This photo is taken directly after the movement phase. This photo also pretty much sums up what he basically does for the entire round. For the movement phase, what he really does, he starts moving up all of his forces. He moves up his skirmishers as well as his infantry units right behind them, kind of creating like this kind of battle line kind of formation that's kind of taking up there, trying to anticipate where I'm pretty much trying to go. At the same time, he also moves up his steam tank, the number of maximum number of D6 inches, 3d6 with inches forward, just kind of ends up right between the forest as well as his main battle line as well. For his magic phase, because he only has an Archlector, his spells were pretty easy to dispel. He didn't have very many magic die to begin with, so it was no problem for me shutting those guys down. So I just warn you guys now, this battle report is a very low magic battle report. Unfortunately for him, during his shooting phase, not really much happened. His archers were unable to either hit or wound anything that was shooting at with their short regular bows. And then for his cannon, when he fired a steam cannon, it just basically misfired on the bounce, so it just stuck right where it was on the ground. So that pretty much makes a pretty uneventful turn number 1 for the Empire. And that takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Vampire accounts. This photo is taken directly after the movement phase, and just like in the previous round, this photo pretty much sums up the entire turn for the Vampire accounts. Pretty much all I really did is I started flying my my Varkgeist. As you see there, I've marched flew my Varkgeist all the way down to the left-hand side of the table, right between those 2 ruins. My plan is to have my Varkgeists either exploit the left-hand flank or the rear lines of my enemy's formations, so that we can start chewing up through some of those really soft infantry units. At the same time, I march up my Crypt Horrors as well, acting as kind of like a vanguard, and I march to the area between the ruins as well as the tower there on the left-hand side of the table. I then also march up my huge unit of ghouls in kind of like a large wheel-type formation, trying to get around that tower because I really don't want to be engaged by that steam tank because that thing is brutal and I really don't want to take on that thing very much. Magic phase, not really much going on for the magic phase for me. I only have 1 wizard. He's a level 1 wizard. That's my Strigoi Ghoul King, and I really couldn't use Curse of Nehek, Blessings of Nehek spell because I wasn't really going to summon up anything else because everything's at max capacity and I have no units that allow me to summon up more things. Plus, since I have no shooting my undead army, there's no close combat. That pretty much rounds up turn number 1 for the Vampire accounts. So with a largely uneventful turn number 1 over with, we go to top of turn number 2. This photo is for the Empire after the movement phase. As you see, my opponent starts anticipating some of the movements I'm starting to do, so he starts dropping back his forces. He moves up his skirmishers to go into blocking positions on the left and right hand side of the battlefield. He deploys Rommel's Rangers, those 5 guys between the building and the standing stone there in the left hand corner to get into my Varkgeists. He also blocks up with the avenue of approach between the standing stones as well as the tower with his other unit of skirmishers as well. He then marches back his halberdier units as well as his supporting unit of halberdiers, the Black Company as well as the Blue Company, and moves them back into like a defensive position. At the same time, he also advances forward with a steam tank because that's what a steam tank does best, and pretty much gets him lined up to attack the right hand flank of my unit of ghouls. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. In the magic phase, my opponent King Khalifa manages to get off one of his spells on 4 of his battle prayers. He gives his unit a 5-up ward save in close combat, just in case if anything charges into him before the next magic phase. And in the shooting phase, my opponent's Panzer Bear manages to kill off 4 of my ghouls firing a steam cannon as well, so that was kind of brutal and already taken some losses. However, even though I did lose some ghouls, I'm not really all that worried about it because I am undead. I can summon up new ones if I need to, so, you know, plenty more ghouls where that came from. Alright, so that takes the bottom turn number 2 for the vampire accounts. This is after the movement phase. As you can see, I start engaging my opponent as quickly as I possibly can. First off, I start off with some charges with my Vartgeist as well as my Crypt Horrors. I fly my Vartgeist right over that unit of skirmishers directly into the blue company and get those guys engaged in close combat as well. So those guys are now right in that location. I forgot to mention the last shooting phase as well. If you notice, one of my Vartgeists has like a 2-die behind it. The reason why I forgot to mention this in the last shooting phase, my opponent's archers on the bottom of the screen there, they managed to put a wound onto one of my Vartgeists in the process of doing that. So as you can see, they kind of flew over those guys, went directly to the blue company as well. I also charged with my Crypt Horrors, but unfortunately for me, I did not make the charge because I kind of stumbled up forward a couple of inches just short of those skirmishers, and then I did another march movement with the wheel, kind of like taking a giant wheel with my ghouls to get them set up to charge in for the next movement as well. My goal is to try to get around that steam tank as quickly as possible and not be bogged down with it, and that pretty much makes it the move phase for this one. And here's a quick close of my Vartgeist getting ready to chew up the red company real quick and getting rid of those guys in close. Sorry, not the red company, the blue company, and get ready to chew up those guys and get rid of them in full close combat. Magic phase is largely a wash for me. I was unable to get off any of my spells. I have no shooting, so because of that, we go directly to the combat phase. As you can see in this photo, my Vartgeists end up chewing up something like 8 of those guys up in the process of doing the combat. I did lose one of my Vartgeists, and they also managed to put 2 wounds onto another one of my Vartgeists because Vartgeist, a guy, last cannon's no saves whatsoever. So that was kind of rough. However, I did manage to kill a whole bunch of those guys, managed to chop out that unit up to 8 men. I actually won combat on this one because I actually charged off as well. Unfortunately, they were within range of Unsparing Presence, as well as Stand Your Ground with the Battle Standard Bearer, as well as their generals, so these guys aren't going anywhere, and they just kind of stay exactly where they're at. So, you know, kind of tough on that part. So with combat over, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Empire. This photo is taken directly after the move phase. At this point, my buddy realizes what I'm trying to do and the kind of moving shenanigans I'm trying to pull to get rid of his steam tank. So he decides to stop his steam tank, take a full left turn to start moving towards my Crypt Horrors, as well as to right Vartgeist as well, because he's just going to deal with those guys head on. So that was kind of rough as well. At the same time, he also starts pulling back his forces again, trying not to get engaged with my monstrous infantry. As you can see, he moves back the Black Company all the way to the right-hand side next to that standing stone, moves his skirmishers to kind of protect his flanks as well. Leaves his Blue Company behind, oddly enough, to deal with the Vartgeist, and he kind of puts his steam tank kind of like in the middle of the table there, so that way he can kind of block my advance as well. So that was pretty rough. Nothing else of note really happened, so because of that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the vampire accounts. As you can see in this photo, I start moving my forces down pretty quickly. First thing that I do is I kind of shift down my Crypt Horrors a little bit to the left-hand side, so that way they can come in to support my Vartgeist. My plan is to have my Vartgeist destroy the Blue Company, hopefully break those guys and overrun, and that way that kind of frees up that avenue approach for my Crypt Horrors to kind of slip in right afterwards and get engaged with the Black Company as well. I also move up my unit of ghouls, because I forget that I actually had CheapSkate equipped on my Ghoul Lord, and that actually puts me within range to use my screaming ability from my Death Shriek onto that steam tank, and that realized I now have something to deal with that steam tank, and hopefully I can just scream it to death and out of existence. So that actually would be kind of cool as well. So that pretty much makes the move phase for turn number 3 for the vampire accounts. In the magic phase, I throw all 3 of my dice for the invocation of the hex spell. Managed to bring back all my crypt ghouls I lost the previous turn. Also managed to bring back a Vartgeist as well. So now that guy has actually 1 wound left on him, so now 3 Vartgeists are still around to kind of to inflict the pain, which is actually kind of cool in that part. And so pretty successful magic phase for me on that half. And as you can see, during the shooting phase, I scream off with 2d6. As you can see, my grand total between my wounds as well as the d6 that I roll ended with a score of 12. Against leadership is 7 on the Panzerbearer, and ended up being a difference of 5. So because of that, the Panzerbearer now has 5 wounds thrown on it on top of it. So it's pretty good now. It won't make it as effective during the movement phase when it generates the steam points, because now it's going to roll a much lower number with our artillery dice. So things are looking pretty good. I'm liking that Death Shriek ability so far, and I'm loving it. So with shooting over, we go directly to the combat phase. As you can see in this photo, I managed to kill another 5 more members of the Red Company, and they managed to put a wound onto one of my Vartgeists. Oh, sorry, not a wound. They're unable to wound any of my Vartgeists, actually, so that actually was kind of cool. But then again, these guys do not break either. It's actually insane to realize how tough these guys are actually holding out. I've been shooting through this unit like it's nobody's business, but for King Khalifa, his leadership tests just do not fail. So because that these guys stand the ground, they're not going anywhere, and I'm engaged with these guys for another turn in close combat. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 4 for the Empire. This photo is taken after the move phase, and with a YOLO in the air, King Khalifa decides to commit his forces. First thing he does, he charges his skirmishing units of archers into the flanks of my Vartgeist. So now my Vartgeists are completely surrounded, which is pretty tough on that part. So now those guys are now just bogged down with combat. That also causes kind of like a traffic jam with my Crypt Horrors. They can't really do much of anything at this point, so that's kind of rough. At the same time, he also charges in his Panzerbearer and has it crashing directly into my Crypt Ghouls, and that's actually pretty devastating as well now too, because I have to worry about getting rid of this guy. The only thing I have going for me is I do have my Death Streak ability, so hopefully I can cause some more wounds and kind of get rid of that tank at the same time. So that makes it the moon phase for turn number 4. My opponent's magic phase was shut down, and there was no shooting because everybody was engaged in close combat, so because we go direct to the combat phase, as you can see in this photo, we had this kind of weird situation that kind of took on. First of all, I did manage to kill all the halberdiers. That part was actually kind of nice, but because I got a couple of my guys killed from those halberdier attacks coming back to me, and plus I had 2 units flanking me at the same time, I caused no damage to those guys, and because of the undead unstable rules for my characters, the rest of my Vark guys just kind of crumbled to dust because of being outflanked by skirmishers, so that was kind of rough as well. It was actually, I think, 1 point more than the total wounds I had left on my Vark guys, so because of that, they all just kind of crumbled to dust. As you can see, King Khalifa then rearranged his forces using his swift combat reform ability, has his 2 skirmishing units staring down my crypt horrors. So not so bad in terms, because these guys aren't very good, so hopefully what I'll be able to do is charge through these guys and then kind of destroy them and then just kind of overrun into my opponent's main line. That's what I'm pretty much hoping for in this turn, but yeah, these infantry guys are staying a lot more tougher than I thought they were going to be. So that's also kind of cool. At the same time, when it was all said and done, my opponent's Panzer Bear managed to kill 11 of my Crypt Ghouls, so that was kind of rough, through all the number of grinding attacks as well as impact hits a tick would have just kind of chewed over my guys. However, what ended up saving me was my Death Streak ability, because I can use that ability during close combat. I then Death Streaked with the Death Streak ability, brought up the last handful of wounds I needed to kind of push this Panzer Bear close to the edge, and then I use my Crypt King, my Strigoi Ghoul King's combat attacks with the Scab Scrath and managed to put it out and out of commission, just managed to kill it same time. So that was kind of cool. Granted, I did lose to over 20% of my forces in the process of doing that, but you know, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, so I'll take what I can get at this point. So with that drama over, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 4 for the Vampire Counts. This video is taken directly after the moon phase. The first thing I do is I charge on my forces. I charge on my Crypt Horrors into the left-hand unit of Skirmishing Archers, and I also charge my Crypt Ghouls into the right-hand unit of Skirmishing Archers. My plan is to hopefully destroy these units in close combat, overrun into the flank as well as the front of the Black Company, get those guys in development, hopefully just destroy those guys out with close combat attacks. And that's pretty much what I was going for at that point. So nothing else going up for me. We go directly to the combat phase, and like I just predicted before, I just charge right through those skirmishing archers. Those guys are nothing more than a speed bump on the advance of my troops. We run over those guys, charge forward real quickly, and then also engage real fast in the close combat with the Black Company. Now, if you're wondering why there's some Crypt Ghouls in my unit, I forgot to mention I did manage to cast Invocation of the Heck magic to bring back 4 of my Crypt Ghouls, so those guys got put back into my unit before I made this charge. I forgot to take the picture of the magic phase. I forgot about that part. So you can see there now, my opponent's directly now into a full envelopment. He's got engaging Crypt Ghouls in the front, Crypt Horrors in the rear, on his flank, and it's going to be kind of interesting to see exactly how this combat plays out. And that takes us directly to the top of turn number 5 for the Empire. We go through all the phases real quick, directly to the combat phase. I was able to manage to block out most of his magical attacks. And the very first thing that he actually does, he actually issues you a challenge with his general, which is actually kind of crazy. So I decided to step up with the challenge with my Strigoi Ghoul King. I want to see exactly what this guy can do in close combat. So you can see both our guys are now on the top of the tower, getting ready to duel it out in close combat. So my Strigoi Ghoul King, Marduk von Koss, goes up against Archlector Gregor von Kornersmark the Grim, and we get to see exactly how these two throw down in close combat. And as you can see in this photo, Marduk von Koss had no problem killing Gregor von Kornersmark. He just put that guy, put the smackdown on him. In fact, if I remember correctly, I actually inflicted enough wounds to kill the guy, and they have one more over as well to add to my combat bonus afterwards. So because the duel is now over, we go directly with the rest of the combat phase, with the rest of the line troops fighting it out. And to be honest with you, when it came to the combat phase, I was really not that impressed with the abilities that my forces have been able to do in this close combat phase. I managed to kill a handful of halberdiers. I think I managed to kill 4 halberdiers from my Crypt Ghouls. I just was flubbing my rolls, and my Crypt Horrors managed to kill 3 halberdiers as well. In return, I did lose 4 of my ghouls in the process of doing so, but we were just flubbing our rolls. Both of us were when it came to the close combat phase. It was actually kind of brutal how much failing we were doing with our dice. But you know, that's the game. Which takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 5 for the Vampire Counts. We go straight to the combat phase because my magic phase is pretty much non-existent. I think I rolled like 3 power dice, and my opponent had no problem just shutting down my spells because I only had the 1, so I really didn't have much of anything go on. And so because I go directly to the combat phase on this part, as you can see, I just flubbed my rolls when it came to my Death Streak ability. Was unable to kill anybody, and for the most part, we really had very little casualties take place on both sides. I think I managed to kill 3 more halberdiers in the process of doing so with the combat phase, and I'm talking total between my Crypt Horrors and my Crypt Ghouls. It was ridiculous the number of 1s and 2s I was rolling to get my enemy. My opponent on the other hand here, I think he managed to kill like 7 of my Crypt Ghouls as well when it was all said and done with rank bonuses and everything else like that. So because of that, as you can see, my opponent's leadership test passed. He wasn't going to go anywhere, and we just kind of stared at each other during the stalemate. And unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the game. And the reason why we say whoops on this part is because we thought we were okay, the game actually was on turn 5. Obviously, you've seen those last photos. As I make this battle report now, I realize we were on turn 5. But at the time we were playing, we actually thought we were on turn 6. So because of that, we thought, oh man, the battle didn't really end with one way or another. We just kind of ended up losing, just ending because we just ran out of time on that part. But actually, we had one more turn going onward. But as you can see from the amount of points that my opponent has total compared to what I've lost, I pretty much won the game on this part, just on point values alone. But yeah, this was a really strange game. A lot of weird stuff is happening with our dice. The same thing with all the movie shenanigans we're pulling off. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the after action report because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, it's time for the after action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the after action report for battle report number 36 of Warhammer the Golden Age, and it being a victory for yours truly. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the factors that kind of led to that. First of all, when it came to the losses, the only thing I really lost in my entire army was my Night Haunters, my unit of 3 Vargeist. For King Khalifa, however, he lost his Archlector Gregor von Koenigsmark, the Blue Company, Rommel's Rangers, as well as the Panzerbrand as well. And let's go tell you right now, this was the strangest game of Warhammer I've ever played. It was really surreal what was happening on for most of the thing. I'm not sure if it was because I was playing a new army. I think that's maybe the best way it was. I've never really played Undead before, and so getting used to playing with a brand new army with a whole new set of rules and a whole new way of playing, a new strategy, and everything I'm solely unfamiliar with. Maybe that's the reason why it felt very, very surreal to play this game. Just to let you guys know, playing Vampire Counts is a very interesting army to play. There's a lot of psychology rules and magic being used in the army, and the way they take break tests is also kind of interesting as well. And it's something I don't have a lot of experience with. I never really played an army that was like this before. And on the other hand, though, I am looking forward to the challenge of playing it because, I've always thought they looked really cool, and I've always wanted to do one for myself, so why not at this point? To be honest with you, I do think I spent too much time trying to be clever with my maneuvering with this army. I'm used to playing armies where I have to do some careful flanking and enveloping surrounding with most armies that I play, and I think with this army I just need to stumble forward as quick as I possibly can and get stuck in and just fight my enemy in close combat. It seems very simple to do it this way, but at the same time it is kind of a narrative way of playing because that's how Undead roll in the narratives, and probably it's probably the most effective way of doing it. Like I said, it was a really strange battle. Our dice were all over the place. We were just rolling a bunch of 1s and 2s. It was kind of hard to tell who was gaining the upper side of this battle. A lot of it was just kind of maneuvering around, no real engagement, just guys falling back and adjusting positions so we wouldn't engage each other's units. So I think that's the reason why we lost track of the turns, because we were just getting confused with all of our movements and stuff like that as well. So, but anyways, it was still a fun game. I had an awesome time playing this game as well. It's always a good time playing with King Khalifa, so I'm looking for the rematch. And yeah, looking forward to doing some more battle reports with this army. So that's good to do for this one, you guys. Please feel free to comment, like, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated. And as always, check us out on Google+, Facebook, as well as Instagram for all the latest and greatest for the updates on our hobby. That's good to do for this one, you guys. That's going to wrap it up for this one. You guys stay classy. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Peace out.